welcome everybody. Welcome to GM. Good morning, everybody, to Decentral and DeFi Summit's Twitter Spaces. We host this weekly, highlighting the top DeFi builders and developers and protocols in this space. As you know, DeFi Summer 1.0 has come. Hopefully, we're going to see another resurgence of DeFi Summer 2.0 coming in as well too. But most importantly, besides the speculation, we always talk about what's actually being built for the current state of DeFi and the future as well. For those that don't know too much about us, we created a Decentral Conference and DeFi Summit. We host events both online at DeFiSummit.com, which we'll be hosting next week. We have a lot of amazing speakers for 2 days. Join us on July 20th and 21st. Next week, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll be hosting Oasis as well as many other great speakers from DAOs, DeFi, protocols, and many more to kind of talk about where DeFi is currently, where it's headed, how can we recover from some of the rugs from stablecoins, and even CeFi versus DeFi. We have a lot of different topics that we'll be covering, all about decentralization and decentralized finance as well. And on the other side too, we host in-person conferences called Decentral Conference, which we just announced yesterday. We host the largest Web3 conference in Miami. So we focus both on NFTs and DeFi. It's as if Consensus combined with NFT NYC created a conference together. That's what we create. Our event is during Art Basel, which is the largest art festival week in Miami. And we host that every single year. And then we also expanded it out into Austin. So during summer in Consensus, we had over 2,000 people join us for that event. And then we'll be also in Singapore later on in September as well, which we hope to meet many of you as well too as we go global. But enough about us, DeFi Summit and Decentral here. I want to welcome up Oasis, the Oasis team and Oasis Protocol here on the stage. I want to give a warm welcome to you, Will.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Justin, for having us. My name is Will. I'm the Ecosystem Growth Manager at Oasis. So my role involves pretty much all aspects of the ecosystem, NFTs, DeFi, play-to-earn gaming, as well as, infrastructure.
Awesome. And I also want to welcome Linda here up on stage.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting us. My name is Linda. I'm head of ecosystem at Oasis. I manage cross-functional teams of product, marketing, community, and business development. I'm very honored to be here and looking forward to this intellectually stimulating conversation with everyone here.
Awesome. And for those that are kind of new to our format as well too, we'll have the first part or first half of Twitter Spaces with the Oasis team, just so you can learn and hear about what they're up to. For those that don't know too much about them, we'll get into like a quick intro and then a deep dive into what's the latest from both DeFi, NFTs, and Web3 with the Oasis protocol. And then we'll open up to the community as well. So you can always raise your hand or even live tweet at me. Or even tag Oasis as well. We'll take a look for the comments that are coming inbound there, and then we'll be able to punch up on stage shortly after in a little bit as well too. Awesome. And then if you have any other questions too, we'll always say that, reserve that for the end, and then we'll do a live Q&A after. Great. Well, so for those I guess not knowing too much about Oasis protocol or Oasis network, I guess can you give us a quick intro about Oasis and how you guys power or build Web3?
Cool, absolutely. I can take this one. Thanks so much again for inviting us. So Oasis is the leading privacy-enabled and scalable proof-of-stake layer 1 blockchain network. We're highly scalable, low gas fees compared to Ethereum and many other layer 1s out there, and secure. Oasis network is also very versatile by design. What we meant by that is we're the first that proposes the modular architecture design. So we separate compute from the consensus. We have this very unique layer architecture where we have the consensus layer, and which is powered by proof of stake consensus mechanism. And on top of that, we have the compute layer where we have we call it parallel runtime, short for pair times. And right now on the network, we have EVM compatible paradigm called Emerald, which is primarily targeting Solidity developers. And we'll also have Cypher, which is WebAssembly based with confidential compute enabled. We're about to launch a new paradigm version, which we'll talk about that later, which is confidential EVM paradigm. And we also have parcel paradigm, which is primarily targeting enterprise applications. So how do we power Web3? I would say if we look back to kind of like onto the history of internet, like Web 1.0, like the AOL of the world is very much about read, you passively receive information. Web 2, the Facebook, Google, that world is very much about read and write. You're not just receiving information, you also contribute comments, videos, images to the internet, and the people have been enjoying that. I think Web 3 is about read, write, and start to actually own. Oasis is kind of like powering this digital ownership, and you cannot really truly own anything on the internet digitally if we don't really have privacy protection, because it's very hard to imagine you just have everything about your data just like public on the public ledger. That just doesn't sound like a very feasible solution for all the consumers, all the users out there. So we can definitely talk about how we power Web3 shortly. But I think as a short intro, I think what Oasis essentially is a highly scalable, low gas fee, secure, privacy-enabled network. And we're very versatile. We can power a wide spectrum of compute demands, and that goes beyond EVM compatibility to confidential compute to non-confidential compute. Oasis is building a critical pillar for Web3 to power Web3 forward.
That's great, and I guess I think you touched about your guys' consensus layer as well as your guys' architecture. But I guess can you dive a little bit on how you guys allow for, I guess, scalability for like 1,000 TPS, and also allowing for kind of, you guys have something called like paratimes as well too. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you're exactly right, Justin. So we have paratime. So we talk about how we separate compute from the consensus. The reason Ethereum is very congested is everything happening on one layer, right? And now you have people proposing layer 2 solutions and everything. Like Oasis were the first proposing this modular architecture design. And so how we achieve scalability is essentially every runtime, like paratime, like parallel runtime, every runtime is a kind of standalone runtime. So all the compute happening one runtime would not affect runtimes happening, compute happening in other runtimes. So everything can happen in parallel. So Oasis network, where theoretically we can spin up to 1,000 paratimes, and if each paratime can achieve 1,000 TPS, 1,000 times 1,000, that's theoretically up to 1 million TPS happening on the network, purely largely because of this parallel runtime architecture, where we separate compute from the consensus, and each runtime is self-contained on its own to allow compute happening in one runtime doesn't necessarily be affected by computation happening in other runtimes.
And with your guys' network being kind of having privacy built into it as well too, does that mean that every part of let's say like a transaction from the wallet to even what you're sending is fully private, or how's that confidential and privacy happen through, like, let's say like the paratimes or sending of the data through the smart contracts?
Yeah, so I think we don't want to confuse people. Like, Oasis is like, the data token is definitely not a privacy token or anything. So Oasis in power data privacy doesn't necessarily mean that every transaction on Oasis is private. If you look at that's the whole point behind Oasis network being versatile. Is like our Emerald paradigm, which is fully EVM compatible, which is we can just say very similar to like say Polygon or Avalon C chain. It's just a straight up very straightforward EVM compatible paradigm. Every transaction there is public. And we do have other paradigms such as Cypher and the upcoming confidential EVM paradigm that allows for confidential compute. But just because we enable confidential compute doesn't necessarily mean that transactions will be private per se. Confidentiality is a very nuanced topic, and also is very customized. Can be customized in the sense that it's very much up to how the app layer, the app developers, how they want to utilize confidentiality. If they want payment to be confidential, they will probably choose certain fields to be encrypted. If they just want the state of the transaction or some other feature or certain parts of the transaction to be private, then they can encrypt that certain parts as well. They don't necessarily need to make every encrypted state, encrypt everything. So this is very, I will say, customizable as to app developers' wishes. Will, do you want to chime in as well on this topic?
Yeah, sure. I would just say that you can pair times similar to rollups, but because our consensus layer is used for just consensus and validation of these rollups, we are able to achieve like 1,000 TPS, and so that allows us to have a super high scalability, as well as it makes it easier to create paratimes that are more flexible and versatile. So like Parcel is one of our paratimes that it's not really like a blockchain that you can think of. It's really a data governance tool, but because of our architecture being separating consensus and execution, it's able to leverage the same facets of paratimes and submit proofs to the consensus layer. And so this data governance tool inherits the integrity of the underlying consensus layer.
Got it. As I also want to welcome Asset Cowboy, who's part of a decentral team, also here on stage as well too, helping moderate, and I'm sure he'll have some questions a little bit later as well too. But I want to say what's up. Yeah, kind of diving into the topics again, and thanks for clarifying that too in terms of like on the privacy side, whether the dApps or the projects want to enable privacy within their transactions as well. Giving that flexibility and freedom between that, whether it be for NFTs and DeFi, is certainly a great option as well too. And one of the topics that we want to discover and I guess share with DeFi Summit is kind of really understanding like what is the current state of DeFi. We saw obviously DeFi Summer 1.0 has passed, and some might even say like DeFi 2.0, depending on the implosion of like Luna and all these a few other ones have kind of passed as well too. Kind of from your guys' outlook too, from Oasis Protocol, kind of like what's your guys' current outlook for the current state of DeFi, kind of like what's next, and how are you guys looking at it from your guys' perspective to continue to build? Do you see as an important and core component to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so I think DeFi is like definitely not dead. I think it's gone through a period of like extreme growth over the last 2 years, and so it's natural to recalibrate. I think for those 2 years, there was always this question of, are these yield farming strategies, these ultra high yields, sustainable? And I think the real question we've answered is that the answer to that is no. But the underlying like premise of DeFi, which is like high integrity, trustless, automated smart contracts, which are permission nature, I think there's still like a lot of value to that. And even when you compare it, like this current meltdown to like the DeFi applications, to central finance applications, like we've seen central finance applications, freeze user accounts or potentially have liquidity crises, but we haven't seen Uniswap, stop allowing people to remove their liquidity, or Aave stop allowing people to remove their liquidity. So I think even in this meltdown, we can see where like that there's definitely some value to DeFi, and I think it'll be an important sector going forward after sort of this recalibration period. Where I think it's going, I think that it's going to focus back on like use cases and not so much on yield, but how to increase market share, how to be more attractive to large institutional investors, more retail investors. And so I think what drives that sort of situation is like KYC, AML compliance, decentralized identity, in Oasis case, privacy and confidentiality. So I think that Oasis is pretty primed to be in this next iteration of DeFi, because through the various confidential features that Oasis has, you can create, like for example, on Sapphire, which is our confidential EVM, or on Cypher, our confidential WebAssembly-based smart contract platform, you could create like a DEX that is confidential, so that right now, if you make a trade on Uniswap or any DEX, it says your inputs and outputs. You put in 100 USDC and got out 0.1 ETH, and this is probably not ideal for large institutions and organizations that are used to having like levels of confidentiality when they're making trades. And so by Cypher and Sapphire hiding aspects of state where it will just say this wallet interacted with the smart contracts, but not what the inputs and outputs were, it'll be more it'll be like a closer resemblance to the traditional finance that people are used to. And then the additional benefit of something like that is like if people can't see it, also node operators can't see it, and validators can't see it. And so it also solves like miner extractable value when you have these confidentiality features. And we also think that by having no minor extractable value, it also becomes like a more compelling use case for institutions and large retail traders, because they're used to maybe making trades on like 100 points or like, very small percentage. And so when they see that they're going to lose like 1% to 3% like before they even make the trade, that's not like a very attractive idea to them. So these are some ideas. And then I think even further looking forward, by being able to put like decentralized identity on chain, so things like credit scores, like accredited investor statuses, that type of thing, you can start creating things like under collateralized lending, and as well as like more interesting finance applications. And so I think, again, like to do any sort of decentralized identity or credit score, you're going to need privacy aspects. And so Oasis is also like very well suited for any of these future use cases of DeFi.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Will. I'm happy to just just a bit more color. So if we think about DeFi 1.0 and 2.0, I think even at 2.0, I think DeFi is still very much limited, in terms of user base, primarily the crypto traders, enthusiasts. Like we haven't really kind of broadened the user base to the mainstream. And I think what's next for DeFi is, I think we'll touch on it pretty well in the sense that can we bridge DeFi with some real world use cases. So essentially, can we grow the crypto market? So for crypto market to grow to the next level, like this needs to go beyond crypto traders, investors, and these enthusiasts. Like who are only here, or this to me, like this has to kind of expand to the mainstream. And with the current applications, it's very hard because it's still very far away from our day-to-day life. So can we build something like reputation-based lending? Like, we have crypto lending, we have decentralized lending like Aave, Compound, those protocol out there. But are those applications kind of really solving people's like loan issues, like unbanked issues, student loan mortgage issues? There's still like multiple steps. So Oasis, I would say, yeah, we are very well primed to solve those issues in the sense that we might not necessarily be the one building the apps ourselves, but we build the infrastructure, building the rails to support reputation or credit score based lending. So not every loan needs to be over collateralized. If loan needs to be over collateralized, means you probably have enough money to do things that you want to do, like for student loan or mortgage and stuff. So you can you can borrow money based on your stellar credit history. Or based on your future career prospect for your student loan issues. I mean, all the things, and how do we bring those real data on chain and store in the and the compute, store that in a confidential way, privacy preserving way. That's where Oasis came in. So so we definitely have a lot looking forward to for the next wave of DeFi. See how those DeFi applications can really solve some of the issue people are facing in their day-to-day lives. So it's going to be, we're very excited about it.
Yeah, I'd say like I think both of you touched on really great points. Like and this is nothing new to Web3 and all the space, whether it be for NFTs, and NFTs is still going through its own waves as well. I would say that it's still super early on for NFTs, similar to like 2017, 18 for the ICO market for NFTs at the current moment. And then DeFi is going through these growing pains and these waves. But as people thought that we can kind of run away from DeFi because some of the implosions from some of the different projects out there, but seeing some of these more CeFi options actually implode on itself actually reminds everybody the real need and current need of owning your own keys, owning your own assets, in a way, because like exchanges and all these other custodials have seemed to kind of implode on itself as well too. So the need to kind of own your own money and trust is still growing, and it's still there. And a need for whether it be a decentralized dollar or stablecoin or decentralized lending platform and protocols are still there. And we're obviously going through a lot of different waves and growing pains to get there, but each time the space is only getting bigger and stronger as we go as well. And I think, as both highlighted too, like we're not there yet to mainstream adoption. And if you look at like what mainstream adoption would be for like DeFi, we need to get to that Robinhood level service or mainstream, where right now, Aave doesn't really provide those loans to like the everyday person quite yet. But if we can get towards that direction, that is the mass adoption that we need to get, whether it be through fintech, neobank, neo fintech, or just a full decentralized option as well too. And providing those different tools are definitely necessary in the current market as well too. And then also too, I think you guys highlighted a few things about like the credit score and a few other things as well too. I'm not sure if you guys had any opinions or thoughts about maybe like Vitalik or a few other thoughts too about like soulbound NFTs or tokens. I don't know if you saw too much about that. I think that there was some discussions about creating a NFT that kind of tracks your reputation and score as well too. I'm not sure. Will or Linda, do you have any short, quick thoughts about that? I know that's like a really brand new topic for a lot. Soulbound NFTs.
Yeah, so I read briefly the Soulbound paper. I think it's interesting. I guess the without like commenting too much on its effectiveness or whether I think it'll work, I think the real thing to highlight is that it just shows like convergence in the space, that people recognize that this is sort of the next area of growth to bring the next 10x users into the space, is that we really need to get some sort of reputation decentralized identity system, and then we can at that point we can start building really, really cool innovative solutions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so when I was reading that paper, at first I was like, very amazed by how well written that paper is, and then I was absolutely stunned by this idea of decentralized society. I feel like at Oasis, we have been thinking about this for a while, and I think Vitalik just put it in the term that I feel like everyone is a very easy to market. Let's put it that way. So this kind of decentralized society is like kind of like brought us back to like why people are here in the first place. Like what kind of like cool things about blockchain, draws those enthusiasts to the space in the first place. I think it's about this kind of decentralization, like no single point of failure, no single party making some sort of a arbitrary call decisions, so that massively affects other parties. So I think building this decentralized society is critical. It's not just about being a decentralized society, because right now with DeFi, like everything, I think a lot of decentralization is mostly manifested via finance, than what we have DeFi. But I think what Vitalik mentioned about the soulbound tokens and the decentralized society is about like how can we bring this ethos of decentralization and have that manifested in other aspects of our life besides finance. And finance is a very cool start. We have a very good run, and I think what goes beyond this. So at Oasis, we actually we have been building those rails and infrastructure for over 3 years, I would say. So we actually introduced this concept of this kind of like data NFT. I think we think it's going to play a critical role or pillar to support decentralized society, because if you think about society, is like you need identity and DID. Everyone has their own passport. Let's call it passport, like basically something that some sort of NFT that you save in your wallet and you can use that for all kinds of services, finance or non-finance related, in this decentralized society. So how I think with current DeFi, like there's really not much identity. It's like everyone just interacting with the application using a wallet address. But if we want to do more in this decentralized society, like there needs to be more data embedded in your identity, in your passport. But what's the ultimate infrastructure to support that? We need data tokenization, data NFT. Basically, it's kind of like a data-backed token that could be docs, could be images, could be things you own, you own on social media, like things you contribute over social media, any of those things, And but what's more important is about the NFT needs to have data policies. And we talk about in Web2 that really, in many ways, piss people off is this kind of like mega platforms can arbitrarily share your data without your consent, and then that kind of like in the Web3 world, that needs to be changed. Like, it's your own property. It's something you own. It's your digital good. Like, you have every right to dictate how you want your data to be shared and be computed. As to like, I want, for instance, I only want my, let's say, medical data or certain social behavior data to be shared with NGO because I want to contribute to medical research to power next wave drug discovery or something. Like, I don't want this to be shared with other entities. I think as someone like owns that good, owns that product, like my own data, I think I have a say as so does every other users, every other data owners. I have a say as to how I want my data to be shared with whom, which entity, and for what purposes. So all of that, it needs to be powered by so first of all, a computational compute, privacy preserving technology, and in the form of data tokenization, data NFTs, and then we can further empower this decentralized society. So I guess that's a long way of saying that. We're very excited about Vitalik published, and along with other authors, researchers published that paper. We do think we can work together to really move forward with decentralized society and bring this kind of ethos, decentralization ethos, to sectors that is beyond finance.
Thanks. And for those that don't know too much about kind of like what we're chatting about, and or that just kind of just tuned in as well too, we were talking about the just like the concept of having your reputation, whether that be through a score or your proof of an engagement, proof of just even utilizing an app or even a DAO as well. Right now we currently don't have that type of tracking in place, or not built in terms of on-chain. Maybe on the dApp level, some people might have built some reputation or kind of scoring with them as well. And there's just been ideas, whether that be an NFT that's like fully binded and locked so you can't transfer it, to kind of build that reputation on the wallet, or it could be a pass that just is like a passport that travels with you across different wallets as well too. This is still super early on, and kind of just reminds me of how early we are still, because we're not quite there yet. But once you start thinking about the possibilities that when some of these whether it be on the protocol level or even on the dApp, start utilizing identity in this way for DAOs, social DAOs, communities, or even NFTs, right? NFTs as a membership and reputation, like a Bored Ape and others as well. It start opening up even more use cases and possibilities that we still haven't had yet, and that just kind of reminds me again, keeps me grounded on where things could where more things can be potentially unlocked. And when that happens, again, there's just another set of new use cases, new transactions, new real life interactions that can happen, whether it be for DeFi, NFTs, and social DAOs and communities as well too. So, kind of on the topic of NFTs as well too, I guess switching topics from DeFi. We saw that you guys recently launched, I guess like confidential NFTs. Is that right? Or private NFT? Is it private NFTs, confidential NFTs? I'd love to hear more about that from you guys. If you can give like a little quick overview about this and kind of what this adds towards the NFT space. Is it similar to like what we're thinking about for reputation, or is there other use cases too for confidential and private NFTs?
Yeah, so a confidential NFT can be thought of very much similar as a regular NFT. There's like an on-chain component, whether it's a JPEG or something else. But the interesting factor is the NFT itself also confers ownership of some private data that only the NFT holder can see. So the initial like proof of concept use case is one of the artists on the Oasis network created. He's a mathematician but also an artist, and he created this NFT collection that is generated from different famous math formulas. And so everyone can see the picture, but only the data owner or the NFT owner can actually see the math formula which generated that, and then therefore can generate it themselves in the future. So this is like a proof of concept that we're pretty excited about. But from there, we think that the sky's the limit in terms of use cases. Some of the interesting use cases we've seen are like people that are building games on Oasis that have like treasure hunts or quests. The NFT will have a unique clue or unique lore about that item, and that will be only something that NFT holder can have. So you can build like pretty interesting gaming mechanics because you can make it almost like bespoke. Whereas like on currently with NFTs, that'd be like pretty difficult because everything can be seen on chain, so every clue would be public to everybody else. The other sort of at NFT NYC, one of the things I found was like very interesting is the space seems to be moving towards like this intellectual property region, like with everything going on with Bored Apes and just NFTs in general. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about that might be interesting is like having the copyright or the intellectual property agreements or patents behind the NFT as a confidential layer. so that only they can see it and prove that they have this sort of intellectual property or copyright on that material. I think, yeah, I mean, really the sky's the limit for use cases, but yeah, basically it's an NFT that has a public facing component, but then some data can be stored behind it, and that data is really limited what it can be. It could be music, it could be decentralized identity information, it could be legal documents, it can be really anything.
So kind of like it has unlockable something underneath the NFTs as well too. So yeah, that's haven't really seen that quite yet. So it could be used for games, I'd imagine, or even I guess documents as well too. Yeah, I think also too from I think we touched a little bit more about your guys' privacy side as well too. But do you guys have any other upcoming, I guess, what's next on your guys' kind of roadmap, partnerships and milestones? Definitely love to learn more about like what's next. We've seen confidential NFTs. We talked a bit about DeFi as well too. Yeah, what's kind of next on your guys' kind of roadmap and for this upcoming quarter?
Yeah, for sure. I think we kind of alluded to at the beginning of the conversation where we talk about launching confidential EVM paradigm. So we currently have, just to quickly recap, we currently have Emerald, which is the EVM compatible paradigm, and we have Cypher, which is the confidential WebAssembly based paradigm, and we're going to launch confidential EVM compatible paradigm. What that means is this product going to be first to the industry. So this gives the Solidity developers, as we understand, mostly crypto developers are Solidity based. This is a very common language people use. So we offer this kind of like privacy preserving technology, confidential smart contract module for Solidity developers, so they can build Solidity-based apps and also at the same time have this kind of privacy features to further power their applications, to be more Web3. Let's call it that way. So yeah, so we're very excited about that. We actually gonna launch this on testnet, like actually literally like today or tomorrow, and after some internal testing, we're gonna launch it on the mainnet very soon, definitely in Q3. And yeah, so we're very excited about that, and we definitely welcome the Solidity developers out there. I know you guys are very accustomed to building applications on EVM-based chains and building all kind of DeFi, NFT, gaming, those kind of straight up Solidity smart contracts. But maybe given what's going to happen next for Web3, maybe it's time to consider how to incorporate confidentiality into your application so we can bring the applications to the mainstream market. So it goes beyond the crypto traders and investors. So yeah, so we'll definitely make announcement once that paradigm is in good enough shape for everyone to build up, and once that's coming, definitely we'll be very looking forward to having more Solidity developers building more privacy enabled apps.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know, Ian or Acid, Cowboy, you want to share any other questions you might have for the Oasis team as well too, before opening up to kind of the community Q&A and public as well too.
Hey team, thanks for joining us, Will, Linda, and everyone. It's awesome, and been seeing the growth of Oasis, and I think people are starting to kind of finally wake up and realize not only your records, but the technologies definitely has a lot of more unique applications. Shout out to Meredith. As far as and Linda, I think you touched on it a bit, and from my mind, because I'm always like, real world utility is going to be what people want to see, and how we get those next 90%, 95% of the populace into crypto. What are some of those applications, and I guess a little bit more normie terms for some of the folks that may not be as educated on the advantages of Oasis protocol? And obviously, from my mind, the privacy layer is definitely it. It sounded like there was like some decentralized science applications, which I think someone just did a DeSci round for 15 million, and I think that's really important, and that will really help us accelerate innovation, not similar to crypto, but in science. And that there's a lot of barriers to entry, and of course a lot of security issues within science that harms innovation. And I see that kind of as an application. Can you guys touch on any of that, on whether it's DeSci or any other in IRL use cases for like utility that folks would be excited about?
Yeah, for sure. I can share some of my thoughts, and then my colleague Will can chime in as well. So I think what we are most excited about, like, since this is really kind of like still in the context of DeFi. I think purely around DeFi, I think we're really excited about this how to bring DeFi to mainstream market. Like, we're very excited about this kind of like under collateralized lending or reputation credit score based lending applications. How we can bring that to the mainstream that goes beyond crypto traders and investors. So to be able to do that, you do need a few things, right? Like you will need confidential compute. You will need where do you get the credit score, and how, like, is it just from those credit bureaus and for international, how do you get the credit score? Because this thing about blockchain and crypto is that there's not much like contained to and only certain jurisdictions, right? Everything is global, everything is worldwide. So so there needs to be a way, like systematic way, to collect the data, to process those data and compute a score, versus just the fetch data from credit bureaus, right? So and all of that needs to be done in the confidential way. So because I don't think people, like customers, borrowers, want to have like their raw data as well, how their data is being computed, reviewed to the public. But I do think the computation, the algorithm, how you can, what's the framework behind that credit score, that can be open source. So it's very transparent, very public, and also governed by smart contract versus arbitrarily by some sort of centralized party or something. So yeah, so and then and from that, like how do you build something, you can call it like a decentralized ID or password, to allow people to use this across different ecosystem, like could be Ethereum, could be Oasis, could be a Polygon, or other like different ecosystem where people can use it across applications that they interact with. So so if we can do that, that's really going to bring a lot of convenience and smooth out a lot of those kind of we can call it like friction user experience in the past, can really make that very smooth. And I think what kind of role Oasis can play there is again, we want to say that we're building the rails. So we have the confidential compute to support those raw data and how that data is processed in a privacy preserving way, so that honor people's privacy. And we're looking for application developers, like third party community developers, to build credit based reputation, credit score based or reputation based lending applications to target those problems that people are facing in their day-to-day life in the finance world.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then maybe outside of finance, you touched on the idea of like data finance and science and stuff like that. I think something that people are becoming like acutely aware of is the value of their own data and the value of privacy. This can be seen like through just migrations to using apps like Telegram and Signal and things like that. People feel less comfortable with big data companies aggregating their data and getting insights on them. And so, like, the real world use case, I think, is that with Parcel as well as like our confidential smart contract platforms, you can create a system where, for example, maybe you don't want to use some social media company's wallet because they'll have a history of all your financial transactions. But with Parcel, you can log in through Parcel, and then you will have ownership of that data, and then you can choose who you want to share it with and whether you want to share it with anybody at all, and you can set the permissions on that. And so I think maybe it's a long way in the future, but at the same time, like, this is, I think, a very compelling point to a lot of people who maybe are not interested in the decentralized finance and payment applications, but who value their own privacy data. And so that's one area that I think we can create like a new market share, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, definitely. That totally makes sense. I love it. Definitely big use case, because I think a lot of people are annoyed about that, especially with data breaches and everything, and having that in a way where they can rest assured that it's going to be more secure and use it for these other credit score and other data driven applications will be sweet.
Yeah, we're also taking a Q&A as well too for those within the community too. If you want to raise your hand, we're going to punch you up on the stage as well too to ask any of the questions to Oasis and the Oasis team as well too. Or if you have any questions about just DeFi and NFTs in general, always happy to answer those questions if you have those. We can always get you up on stage as well too. Yeah, I guess while people are kind of raising their hands as well too. Yeah, I don't know, Ian, you have any other questions that you want to ask the team?
What's the biggest milestones you guys have coming up for this fall and winter? Obviously, you guys can't talk about everything, but what is the team most excited about in the ecosystem for Oasis, partnership wise, or rolling out some new milestones, or stuff for devs or events?
Yeah, so we're mostly excited about launching that confidential EVM compatible paradigm called Sapphire, like the blue rock, very valuable rock, Sapphire. So I know we'll probably have we have two names, Cypher and Sapphire, that can be kind of like pronunciation wise can be confusing sometimes. But yeah, that confidential EVM compatible paradigm is coming out very soon. We're launching on testnet today or tomorrow, and then we're launch after some robust internal testing. We're going to be launched that on mainnet in Q3, and that is going to be something very exciting because we're very much looking forward to giving Solidity developers this kind of opportunity to build privacy applications, because currently it's a bit hard to build privacy-enabled applications using Solidity as a language. I think most people's choice is Rust or some other languages, but this campaign confidential smart contract module power, Solidity based, will be very, very helpful to the industry, and potentially have more Web3 developers join this mission to build the next wave, next killer applications for Web3.
Yeah, and for any developers, I don't think we've confirmed the date yet, but we should probably be having a hackathon or something of the sorts for that Sapphire smart contract platform. So that's what I'm really excited for. I really want to see the innovative ideas that people come up with that we haven't even thought of, because I think that's like the one thing crypto has shown us, is that like you might think what people are going to build with the tooling you create, and then it just forms its own identity and its own sort of culture, and it can really surprise you how innovative people can be and how creative they can be. So that's what I'm really excited for.
I also want to welcome Lord Durden on the stage as well too.
Oh, hey guys, thanks. Will, Linda, really enjoyed the conversation. I did drop off for about 10 minutes, so apologies if this has been requested already. And also apologies if I do sound like a bit of a tourist, because I know it was a very popular question earlier in the year. But what's the status of the Meta partnership? Is it still ongoing? Is there anything to report there?
Yeah, for sure. With Meta, that's definitely a partnership that's ongoing, and that that's definitely taking us a bit longer than expected to really announce that in a very concrete way. I think last November we kind of like announced the very high level overview of the partnership, and but in order to announce something very detailed, there's quite a few milestones within the partnership, and because this Meta is a third party to Oasis, and with third party partnership, there's a lot of things that we cannot control. It's also like third party also has their own schedule and everything. So, but we're doing our best to move this forward. We're hoping to announce the partnership in a lot more concrete form with the community very soon.
Great. By very soon, can you? Are we talking weeks, months, and sorry to press? But,
all we can say is that we're doing our best. We absolutely want this to happen ASAP. But again, we're dealing with third parties, so sometimes there are things out of our control. So thank you so much for being very patient with us.
No, I get it. I'm sure there's a huge amount of bureaucracy and red tape. Is there anything you can tell us in terms of the subject matter? Is it on the NFT side? Is it on the DeFi side?
So we really cannot disclose those things because we're also governed by the non-disclosure and everything. So we want to we want to respect our partners' wishes and everything. So
Absolutely.
let's stay tuned for that. Thank you.
I eagerly await the updates, and I shall not ask any more questions on that. Thanks, though. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we're all trying to get alpha here, right?
Thanks, Tyler.
Awesome. Yeah, anybody else in the community have any questions? I know we're kind of hitting up the hour here, so we can kind of wrap up very soon here. But just wanted to provide any stage time for anybody that have any questions, some to like Lord Durden and others that you might have to the Oasis team as well too. Yeah, I guess is there any last thoughts you guys like to share, Will and Linda? I know that we'll have you guys be speaking again on our live stream at DeFi Summit next week as well. But any closing thoughts you guys want to share?
Yeah, I can start, and then Will can chime in as well. So yeah, I think for crypto builders and enthusiasts and people, whoever that, everyone who is in this industry, we completely understand, what everyone is going through right now. So of course, things are a lot easier when we're in the bull market. And I think right now, industry is taking stock as to figure out direction, figure out what to do next, and then just like a lot of recalibration and thinking required. And these can be tough, and we just want everyone know that we're in the same boat as to what the way we think about it is that when market is not necessarily like in the kind of like a glorious or like super hyped that kind of like mode, is actually a good time to build because you have fewer distractions and you'll be more focused, and you'll be actually taking stock in terms of thinking what you want, what you're passionate about, and what you want to build. And great applications are all kind of emerged or started in the bear market. Like Oasis we started early 2018. That was like definitely during the market crash. Like I remember Bitcoin down from a very high level, probably just like 4,000, 5,000 or something, like in a matter of weeks. After hitting like 20,000, like a peak, just like a couple months ago at that time. So, and then looking back, like what really were the previous wave of crypto, the whole DeFi, like back in first half of 2020, around summer 2020, like you see the Uniswap, Aave, Compound. But if you look at those amazing applications, when they started, it was bear market as well. Uniswap, I think around 2018 ish, around that time, same as a Compound. So when market was kind of like going sideways, it's actually provides this kind of golden opportunity for everyone, for all the builders, kind of like think about what you're passionate about what we're passionate with, and then think about how to play to your strength and build something that you believe can add value to the industry, you believe can add value to the users out there. So so I think my personal thoughts, final thoughts for this is let's stay strong, stay resilient, and stay hopeful, and take stock as to our own passion, our own interests, our own strengths and weaknesses, and be very patient about the market and build.
Yeah, and I think Linda expressed that beautifully. I think when it's quiet during these bear markets, this is when actual innovation is occurring. And I guess in my closing thoughts, I'd just like to say to any developers out there who are interested in building an Oasis, please reach out, join our Discord, join our Reddit, anything like that, and reach out to us, because we're happy to help and start, trying to build the next iterations of Web3 and that are going to really drive like the next bull market. And then also, I'd just like to say for any members, who maybe are not so familiar with Oasis, I know these concepts were, more technical and maybe hard to follow. And so I would also encourage you to join our community channels, Telegram, Discord, Reddit, and reach out and try to learn more about Oasis, because we have like a great community team that is going to that loves to educate people and help people understand Oasis and sort of show why we think that this is the best platform for driving the next iteration of Web3.
Awesome. And for those, again, that kind of trickled in here as well, too, we host DeFiSummit.com. It's going to be our live online virtual conference next week. We have Oasis team speaking, as well as many other speakers touching upon topics from DAOs, CeFi versus DeFi, stablecoins, the current state of stablecoins in the current market, social DAOs, governance versus governments, and many other topics, as well as we deep dive in the current state and future of DeFi. And kind of to end things and remind everybody, like the first DeFi run, DeFi 1.0, kind of came in through the, when it was considered back then the bear market as well. So innovation can happen at any time, and when there's something that's ready to go for mass adoption or usage, it can always happen at any moment. The best thing to do is to continue to just build and prep yourself for the next run. You don't want to be building and being distracted while everything's going in the bull. We always want to keep building regardless of the market as well too. So I've been through many cycles since 2014. So it's the trend is always up, and as we're going through these different stages, it's still a reminder that we can continue to develop, build together, collaborate, and build the future of finance, hopefully together, and NFTs too. Well, yeah, awesome. Well, I'll say thanks again for coming on for this week's Twitter Spaces. I'm sure we'll have you guys on another as you guys roll out more further updates with the Oasis protocol. And we'll see you guys next week. And for those that weren't able to catch everything, we have this all fully recorded, so you can go in and listen to this Twitter Space after we end it, shortly after. And then we'll also have the file downloaded and re-uploaded with the Oasis team for later listening as well too. So thanks to everybody again for coming on board. We'll see you guys next week at DeFiSummit.com. And thanks again for Oasis Protocol for both supporting us and sponsoring Decentral and DeFi Summit as well too.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Later.